Okay. Here's the demo run. Okay. Here we are. Here's our capacity used. Here's our storage throughput and our director input, and this is not surprising because the realm is completely idle. Okay, so there are some volumes on here. What are we going to do to go look at our volumes?
Click on storage.
Storage, yes. Got no errors. Let's go down here and look at the volumes. What do we see here?
Volume,
Yes.
state.
They're all online. We can see that all these are in blade set 1, and just this one is in blade set 2. Now, this is a very poor use of our other blade set, but I wasn't imaginative enough to put some other things in it. I probably will later. And you can see that just looking ahead, that this capacity use bar represents all the capacity in blade set 2, whereas all these are in blade set 1. And we have a whole topic about that. That's why, even though this is only a 6 terabyte volume, it shows a greater orange space because it's a greater percent used in our small set 2. I mean, we just put enough of the ASFs in blade set 2 to have a blade set. It wasn't intended to necessarily be a performance blade set. So we see different volumes. We see they're in the same blade set. We can see the RAID. Are any of the RAIDs different than the others?
Yes. Scratch is 5+.
That's right. It's not unusual if it's really a scratch volume. It's not unusual for people to make scratch RAID 5, because scratch really is just a computational space. We want to pump out some data really, really fast, and we're going to put it in scratch. And if for some reason we have some kind of a double failure, we probably can get it back. But if we don't, it's not going to be the end of the world. Somebody's going to have to rerun their job for 3 days. They've lost 3 days worth of data or something. These others, we do not want to lose that data. We're going to use the safer RAID 6, where we can reconstruct out 2 OSDs, or we can reconstruct out 1 and have some kind of little blip on another one where a component can't be read or something, and we're reconstructing. Here's our capacity used. Quotas we'll talk about tomorrow. There's no task in progress. Task in progress, usually reconstruction, other things. So we can, this is already sorted by name. Let's sort this by blade set. It's the same sort. Let's sort it by capacity used. You see, now it says capacity used, and there's a down arrow. And now set 2 is not alphabetized. We can so we can see that scratch is our largest volume. Data is our next largest. We can't switch it to do capacity used from top to bottom. We can only sort it that way. So we can sort here and sort here. We can sort by the name. Let's go look at some of the attributes. Let's look at.
And example, if the / project is full, can we add additional space in it?
Yes.
If that one
Yes.
is having us.
Yes. Now, remember that space is a quota issue, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. So if it's out of space, all you have to do is raise the quota. So yes. In terms of absolute space, the space is what's available in the blade set. So blade sets.
And can we add a additional space in a blade set as well?
Yes. Well, you have to physically add some storage. You can't just say, I'm going to take some space in set 2 and add it to space 1. But yes, I mean, the way you do that is you add storage. Let's say that your capacity used, you're up to 85%. And we'll talk about this tomorrow. But once you're 85% full, you need more storage. Nobody's storage performs well if it's almost full.
Yes.
You need some working space. Plus, you never know when the user's going to start a great big job and the capacity use is going to jump from 85 to 95, and then your performance is really going to be slow. So let's say that you're about 85%. You talk to the users, all that kind of stuff. Is this an unusual load? No, we're growing. We're getting more business. We need more. We're using the storage for more. You contact your sales representative. I need another enclosure. I need another rack. I need another whatever. So you order stuff and you unlock the realm, you add the enclosures. We're going to go to blade set and we're going to add those enclosures into the blade set. And then, yes, we will have more space.
Okay.
So is it possible to have unassigned space and then use that later to extend the volume?
Yes. Yes. And we will talk about that tomorrow as well. There are, and we do this in our own, some of our own realms. We set the hard quotas on the volumes so that they're way below the available space, simply because we don't want the users using up all the space. We think they should use this. They fill that up. You say, okay, I think that this volume deserves more space. And then you raise the hard quota. But remember, there's two kinds of available space. One kind of available space is the actual physical storage that you have. And you can't create more of that without adding storage because that's just the laws of physics. You can only put more, data onto the physical drives. So you run out of the physical space in the blade set, you need to add more physical drives with more enclosures, usually. Okay. But the other is a logical space where we've allocated space for each volume. And yes, you can change that on the fly. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. And we will talk about that. And we will spend we're not going to really talk about reconstruction all that much because that's not this kind of, it takes a long time and that's not this kind of course. And people are very, very interested about space per volume and stuff because that's where you or the users that you're going to be showing really, really live. So we will talk about that, and we will experiment with changing the space available for each volume. That was an excellent question. So I'm going to go back to the volumes, and here we are. So now we're going to look at some of the, and for it, let's just click on software. And we can see here's the name. We can see that it was online since yesterday morning. Set 2, the user and group quotas policy. We're not going to go over this because this takes a couple of hours. And there's just not time in a 1-week course. But you can set a policy where every single user has his or her own quota. And it takes some special tracking of that. It's not on by default. What did I do? It's not on by default, but you could change that. And the regular course has slides on that, and those are available too. So grade 6, we could change the recovery priority so that this volume well, actually, this one is set 2, this is set 1, so it doesn't matter. So that one volume reconstructs ahead of the other one. Matter of fact, let's do that because I don't think we're going to talk about reconstruction all that much. Well, actually, we will. We can change this, and we could change the name. It's easy. We can easily change the hard quota down here, read only, read write. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the volumes display?
Not from my side.
Okay. All right, let's create a volume.
We are going to talk about a quota as well in a different
Tomorrow.
topic.
Tomorrow, yes. Let's create a volume. What do I do?
Click on create a volume. Create
Volume. Okay. Now what?
Give a name.
What shall we create?
Anything. /test. Test.
You don't have to put the test in there, at the slash in there.
Okay. Automatically take it.
Yeah.
So
Now, yeah. I do in the examples, just because it's probably more proper, but we'll do it just to show. Okay. Blade set. Which blade set do you want it to go in? In most realms, the drop. You technically have to choose it, but there's only one blade set, so you don't choose it. But we have more than one blade set, so we have to choose.
So we are going to use a RAID 6, so we will use set 1.
That doesn't have anything to do with one another. They have RAID 6 volumes in set 2 as well.
Got it. Got it. So set 2 as example.
Okay. Set 2 is kind of lonely, so let's do that. Okay. Volume service, we'll just look ahead. We could decide what volume service it's going to be on, but we'll just let the system separate it. We will go ahead and do a description so you can see that. Text volume training. Okay. We happy with RAID 6?
Yes.
Okay. Recovery priority, we'll just leave that alone. We'll just leave that alone. Okay. Anybody want to change anything?
Can you scroll up a little bit? No, down, sorry. Can you click on advanced settings?
Yes. So this is where you don't want to ever change this. This one you might want to change. And in some cases, our system administrators, in fact, do advise you to say the default is 64K. Let's do 128. This you don't want to change. This is possible to change way back in PanFS version 5. We used to have 2,000 stripes in a stripe group, and we didn't go over what that is, but it's a big chunk of data for a file. Let's say we have a great big file. We're going to go 2,000 stripes more, and then we don't want it to this file to be located on just not 10 or 11 OSDs. We want it to be created on another 10 or 11 OSDs so that our striping is very wide for this file. We're going to create another stripe group so that people reading to the first part of the file are reading from the first group of OSDs, and the clients, if we're reading to the second part of the file, we're reading to the second OSDs, and the striping is wider and our performance is greater. So We used to go 2,000 down before we would go to another stripe group, and we found that the performance was better if we went to 16K down. In other words, 16,000 and change. And some people said, you know, I like the 2,000 better. So this is reasonable to change, but I haven't seen anybody change this in years and years. So basically, the stripe unit is the only thing you might want to change. And typically, we would not do it in a blade set for this, but we'll just do it just for training. And this this is particularly useful for volumes that contain very large files. Now, if you do this, the capacity used for very small files is going to double. If that file only contains 3 bytes, it's not it's going to use a full block of 64K for each. Well, actually, that's not true. It'll only use 1 block on the thing, but this has the capability of this will create RAID 1 files on a lot more of the smaller files. But our performance testing has discovered that for large files, this will increase your performance. And if your customers are oil companies that are looking for oil, a lot of times they are reading and writing some very large files. So this might be useful. But again, we would want to test this. Yeah. So are we ready?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, thank you. All right. You saw that there was a little delay because the system had to create an entry in the root volume, and it had to create components on the OSDs to store the data for this object. But that didn't take very long. You see that it was created with today's date and time. This is the time here in Pittsburgh. And now we want to go down here and see test. There it is. Let's change the name of this volume just so we can mix up the blade sets. And we can say that this is alpha test. And yes, you can have space in your volumes, volume names too. I don't like it simply because it means you have to quote names and stuff on the clients, but you could. So let's update the volume name. Okay, we see it's successful. Now this does not jump to the screen like, so we're going to go to the listing, and their alpha test is up there on the top. And so now our default alphabetical listing shows a mixture of set 1 and set 2. So now we can click on blade set and show these volumes right here. Let's do the filter. We could say, we could go, I mean, this is kind of a silly filter, but just to see how it works. A star, go. And we see only the 2 volumes that start with A. Now this page is not as recent as the other pages, so it doesn't say showing 2 of 2 volumes filtered from 8, like the hardware page does. So now we want to see all our volumes again. We're just going to get rid of the glob pattern, go, and we don't want to see that anymore. So we can raise it and lower it to make a space on our GUI, and there we are. Any questions? You want to create some more volumes, or are we good?
Can you open control again.
Yeah.
Expand it.
You see?
So
That does
what
it.
is this extended file system availability mode?
Okay. That is, let's say that we have two OSDs that are down in set 1. Scratch is RAID 5. So it's only going to be partly available because some of the files may be stored on both OSDs that are down. And we have this in retry. So if the client tries to access any of those files, it will hang. So, and that is a good default setting. But if you are actually two down and we want to go through Scratch and see which files are available and maybe copy them off or do anything like that, we can switch it to this. And let's actually do that in the volume details page so we can edit. And we're going to say file unavailable. So this means if the client accesses a file that has components on both OSDs that are down, it can't read it because it's RAID 5. A RAID 5 file can only be reconstructed if it is missing one component. But we're missing two components because we have two OSDs down. So the client cannot read this. So what we want the system to do is return EIO, error, IO error, to the client. So it doesn't hang. It can just say, oh, I'm missing that file. And we may, that may be useful to decide how hard we try to recover those OSDs. Or look, none of our critical data is really missing. We can see that this and this and this and this file can be read. Let's copy these off. And then let's do volume recovery on this file where we're just going to reconstruct everything we can and we recover the volume even though it was two down. So we can go save changes. Now we're going to go back to Scratch and we can see that the extended availability mode is file unavailable. We can go back to the volumes and we can look at that. And we can see that Scratch is file unavailable and the others are retry. Does that answer your question?
Yes, please.
This volume recovery, I will probably go over, but I mean, basically, if reconstruction is running and we want home alpha test, reconstruction will only affect one blade set where the OSD is down. But let's say here we are, we've got Scratch and data both on this volume, and we actually want data to reconstruct first. We could change this to 40 and save changes. And this says that this may stop reconstruction on Scratch and start it on data, which is what we wanted. And we could change that. That's looking ahead. We will talk about that in more detail, probably on Friday if we get to it. If not, we have training on it, which you can, and videos which you can watch. Any other questions? Anything you'd like to see on volumes?
Fine for me.
Okay. This is very, very easy. Very, very easy to do.